Welcome to Written by Her, a special series by Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. I'm your host, Melissa Banks, and I'm excited you decided to join us today. I believe that every woman has a story of courage, a story of faith, a story of resilience, a story that deserves to be told. In this series, we sit down with incredible women authors who dare to put their experiences, wisdom, and dreams on paper. We go beyond the pages and into the journey, the challenges they face, the lessons they learned, and the moments that almost made them quit, and the courage it took to keep writing. Because every book begins with a dream, but every author has a story behind the story. So, whether you're an aspiring author, an entrepreneur, a dreamer, or a woman navigating her own journey, my prayer is that these conversations inspire you, empower you, and move you to action. This is Written by Her, where women share their stories, their voices, and their purpose. Let's get started with today's show. Our guest today is author, speaker, certified dating coach, and podcast host, Dr. Velma Bagby. Welcome to the show, Dr. Velma.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you, Melissa. Thank you for
It
having me.
certainly is. It certainly is. I just look forward to our conversations. You always have so much to inspire us and encourage us. I'm looking forward to talking more with you about your amazing My 70s Love Story 50 plus
Of
years
course.
later. What an amazing book. Congratulations on all the success of the book. It's everywhere. You can't go online without seeing that fabulous
Thank
book
you.
cover. I'm just saying.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Bellman, let's begin at the beginning of the journey, like I'd like to do on this show. What
Uh-huh.
was it that what was it that inspired you to say it's time to write my 70s love story?
I think what I always try to do is to look for God's guidance on anything that I'm writing about. And one of the things that I recognized during that time of waiting and listening and meditating, I recognize how many years have passed since I started just writing about dating and relationships and marriage. And then considering the fact that our 57th, look at that, 52nd wedding anniversary was coming, the the thought came to me, and I felt like God was letting me know it's time for me to write about us. It's time to pull back the curtain and allow people to see what happens behind the scenes. Because if it's my job to inspire other women, our couples, to be successful in their marriage, it was time to for my husband and I to really allow people in to see what we experienced. And he was standing, like you see the back of my chair, he was standing right beside me as I considered what to include, what to talk about. So he was part of it. He's just not one of those people who would like to be on the interview panel and any of that. So I put it in my name, but my husband is very much involved in everything I included in the book. And so that's how it began. But I didn't do it the correct way because I was ready to release it in February. 25,000 words was done. And God told me, no, scrap that. That's not the content I wanted you to include. Because I was going like first 5 years, next 6 years. And I think you and I had a conversation
Mhm.
about this. And God said, no, that's not what's needed. I need you to talk specific to those experiences that you had. And I had to start over. So I told my publicist, Cyrus, don't give me a deadline. I'm not going to talk about when it's coming out. I'm just going to take my time and make sure I include the content I'm supposed to have. And that's exactly what happened. I did a little research and looked at what people included in their memoirs and stories and found the answer to my question, what do I do? It wasn't about the years. It wasn't about that. Start writing about those specific experiences. And as I began to write about them, I grouped those things together that I thought was related. And that's how the chapters were formed.
Dr. Bellman, I was listening to you talk about your process and having the courage. That right there is such an example for
Yes.
all of us. Just having the courage to say, I know I've already done all this work.
Yes.
This is not what God is wanting me to do. This is not the take
Mm-hmm.
on it that He wants me to deliver. I'm
Exactly.
starting over.
Mm-hmm.
What courage that took to take that step, because you
Yeah.
wanted to do it, and but you wanted to do it the right way. And
Absolutely.
I'm just amazed
I
that you could do
just
that.
I
Not all
just
of us
wanted
can
to
do
be.
that, you know.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to be obedient because it was him inspiring me. And so, whatever was going to happen with this book and whatever audience it's intended to reach, I want to make sure I was following those instructions because it will meet that audience. And that's exactly what happened. I've heard from people who've been married 40 years and was highlighting some of the things I said in my book. So, that told me it was speaking to everyone that it was intended to speak to. And I'm glad I did what I did.
I'm so glad you did this. But Dr. Bellman, this is
Mhm.
not your first book, though. You have
No,
several books out. I don't know how many, but you have a lot of them. But talk to us about the challenges of writing. I mean, give us a challenge that you had to overcome in your
right.
process before you became a published author. What is it that you had to overcome and believe that you could do it and then move on that?
Well, my biggest challenge was, first of all, and in the work that I did in state government, I was a deputy administrator. So I had over 100 people under me, 10 offices I had to oversee, all of that. I wrote training, I developed programs, I wrote the design for the programs, all of that. So writing was not a stranger to me. But when I retired, I thought all of that was going into my retirement box. And then again, God spoke and said, no, it's time for you to talk about how did you and Bruce get here? How did that even happen? Others need to know. And what God reminded me of was kind of what we had when I was coming up. We had people who poured into us that kind of wisdom about relationships, how to choose a mate, how to move forward, how to maintain your marriage. And because I remember going to my senior aunt and asking her, we're having a tough time and I'm not sure if we can make it through. She said, baby, what are you going to do when you throw away all you've invested in that man? I'm going, oh, now, Aunt Marie, you've just said something to me because that's like putting money in the bank and turn it over to somebody else to withdraw. I said, that's not happening here. So, wisdom around me helped me to become who I am. And that's what's missing now. So many of the new generations don't like wisdom. They don't like listening to someone who's got the learned experience. I'm not talking about somebody with a degree and a piece of paper, but somebody who knows what they know, who's been through it and experienced it and came through, who can speak into your life is important. And I think that's what I enjoy the most out of what I'm doing is that learned experience that can be shared with other people because I benefited from that, from those who helped me, from those who spoke into my life.
So, Dr. Bellman, when you mentioned young people, and that made me think about this question. What is it that you hope when they pick up this book? Let's talk about Seventies
Yeah.
Love Story. When they pick
Mhm.
it up and read it and finish that last page, what is it that you hope they take with them when they finish reading?
I think the key is the wisdom that you'll have more information that you had before than what you had before, that you'll know how to approach things and look at things differently so that it would keep you safe, make good decisions based on what you've learned. Because a lot of people are crazy about rom-coms right now. Well, my story begins with a rom-com, but what happens after the
No, come
rom-com?
on.
Right. We love all these books about love and all of that. But what happens in real life after the rom-com rubs out? What does it look like? It just looks like living together, accepting each other, and choosing each other every day. So I hope the single person would see the beginning to the end and say, okay, that's what I want. Let me apply some of the principles she's teaching us in the book. The married person, let me not give up on this too soon. Let me see what the end's going to be. Let me wait and work on this. Let me show some grace, the same kind of grace Jesus gave us on the cross when we didn't deserve any of what he was doing for us while he was doing it. That's the same kind of grace we have at home. We have to practice. How you learn how I we determine that we're not enemies to each other. There's an enemy against marriages because the enemy hates unity and agreement. So you got an enemy the minute you say I do. And you got to know how to maneuver through all of this and recognize what they are so that it'll help you to overcome some of those challenges that will come. The married person will get some wisdom as well as the singles. And that's what I believe they will take away from the beginning to the end. Because people are good. at getting married, but they're not good at maintaining them and helping them to grow and survive.
Absolutely. And you touched on what I was going to ask you next is your book for single people? What is it that single people can take away from it? I had a conversation recently and I was talking about your book to another single person, and
Uh-huh.
I'm single, and she
Mm-hmm.
was saying, "But this is not for us though, Miss Banks. This is for people who are already married." So I
Mm-hmm.
thank you for addressing that, because I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that they understood that it's not just for people who's already
No,
married. It's for
no.
those who want to get married and be able to stay married
The
as well.
whole idea of marriage begins before I do. That's the
That's
whole
right.
point. It
Mhm.
begins what you do, how you prepare yourself, how you look, how you determine um, who you're dating, who you won't date. All of that begin. That's all a part of marriage. It's intentional dating. You date on purpose because you're not here to play. This is not high school. You're looking for a lifelong mate, and so all of that happens in the beginning. And so marriage is the whole idea of why you're meeting who you're meeting, why you're scrutinizing who you're dating, why you're asking specific things, why you're trying to determine what are the qualities in this man. And he has to have more than the experience as a person who can DM you or text you. He better know how to talk to God too.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Let me reset right here, Dr. Velma. If you're just joining us, this is Written by Her, a special series by Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. Our guest today is Dr. Velma Bagby. Okay, Dr. Velma,
Uh-huh.
what I discovered, and I'm in the process of writing my memoir, right?
Yes.
And what I
Hmm.
have discovered in this process that surprised me a bit was how it was impacting me. Things that I thought I had healed from a long time ago, when I start talking about them, it all comes up. And it really took me by surprise. Talk to us a little
Wow.
bit about how much the author changed while writing the book, as well as the reader when they're reading the book after the journey.
Yes, sometimes when you have to do a step back and you have to go back over something you've experienced, absolutely those things will happen. As I was writing, it wasn't a happy time when I had to move out of my house during the time when I felt like God was telling me, okay, it's time for you to move. I'm going, well, what do you mean, God? We're supposed to stay together. What does you mean by moving? And it's exactly what he wanted. He wanted my husband by himself, just him and in. And that's the chapter I call We Had to Move Out So God Can Move In. I'm
Mhm.
telling you, it got more attention for him because he loves his family. He loved us, but there were just changes we needed to make. And when he said he described coming home that day after I moved out, and he said it was like he was hearing his own echo at home. He said, "I hated that. I hated it desperately." And let me tell you, my husband would beat me to church. He was there early. He was there early, and I'm going, "Oh my gosh, look at you."
Mhm.
But those are the things when you go back and have to revisit, like I just shared with you about the moment I thought we were over. And my aunt was telling me, no, you need to look at this. Are you going to hand over all the work you put into this man to somebody else? Those are all the things that I think is important. And when you step back into those moments, it brings back memories. And
Mhm.
yeah, you're going to determine if you really healed from it, if you really let it go, because it's a lot of that. If all of that has to happen, I have to show him, like I said, my husband grace at times when great. There's another response I could have given other than grace. It was very much warranted, but I got to do what God told me to do. All of that applies even when we go back and revisit. We have to go
Absolutely.
back. Sometimes I have to go back and say, man, God, I thought I forgave him for that. Let me go ahead and let this go because I don't want to have this hanging around me, that kind of thing. So it's important that we do that. And yes, those memories will sometimes remind you, hey, you're still carrying the weight of this. Time to
Absolutely.
let it go.
Absolutely. Okay, Dr. Bellman, let's talk a little bit about self doubt.
Hmm.
Oftentimes as women, we're in the writing process. Maybe we've gotten it started, but then we start to question whether or not I can even do this. So, was
Hmm.
there a moment in writing this book that you thought this is just too much? I'm just not going to be able to do it. And how did you push past those moments, if so, to get the book completed?
The hardest part for me was that section in the middle that's called Midlife Mess and a Marriage Refined by Fire. We had gone through a lot of challenges. We really have. God had blessed us to be very successful. I think we had bought 3 homes by now. And the last one we decided to sell, and that was during the housing bust. And we said, you know what? I'm not investing any more money in a house until I know what I want. And just decided to rent for a while. I think we rented for at least 20 years or more. And we decided I'm not pouring my money into mess anymore. And during that time, I realized that, what are we going to do now? What's going to happen next? And to be able to say that on paper, to be able to tell everybody what was happening. Some people would say, "What? You had a 5 bedroom, 2-story brand new house is worth over $1 million now. You let that go?" I was mad at the mortgage company who told me they weren't going to refinance our house because they were only helping those who were losing their home. We weren't losing it, but when you spent over 800,000 to purchase the home, it's now down to 290, and everybody moving in is moving in based on what they're paying now, which is around 293. You're like, wait a minute. We don't want to stay in this house if you're not willing to refinance. And they said, well, you're not late enough. And my husband said, well, we'll help you with that. And so he stopped paying them because who do you
So
think
we
we
can fix
are?
that real quick, huh?
Right. Let me help you with that. And that's when we just got really disappointed in the mortgage companies in terms of that. Those who were faithful and doing what they should do weren't being rewarded. It was the ones that were losing their homes and not paying anything that were really getting all the help. So it was a horrible time. And I just thought that it was a difficult time, but yet we had to tell everybody. We had to share all of that. We had accomplished a lot, but we also lost a lot. And that was part of where we were at the time.
So looking back, Dr. Velma, when you're looking back at the writing process and having to remember all those moments, and some of those were
Mhm.
not good feelings, but
Yeah.
now that you can look back at the process, what would you tell that woman, that Dr. Velma, you were when you first started, and the Dr. Velma you were by the time you ended this process?
Girl, you're going to be so wise. Use your wisdom. Your wisdom is going to come in handy. Again, learned experience is not something you can purchase or buy. That's like somebody been married 2 years and then get a certificate as a marriage coach and want to coach me. No, you call me back in a few years, dear, because 2 years is not enough for me. Give me some learned experience, somebody who's been there and done that, and that's who you're going to become. You're going to become her, the one with learned experience.
Absolutely. So, Dr.
Hmm.
Velma, there's somebody listening, a
Hmm.
woman that's watching right now, and she has a story inside of her, but she hasn't been able to start writing. What would you say to her to encourage her to write that story?
I'm going to say, if you have an assignment to do and God has put this on your heart, you need to fulfill it because there's nothing like faith on fire. Faith without works is dead, which means you don't take any action, it's dead. And why are you walking around with deadness? Your blessings come from life. And why don't you not turn that fire up and get busy doing what you've been called to do? Because there's someone who needs to hear what you have to say. Who cares how many books are already out there on the topic? They haven't said it like you. They will respond to the way you say it because that's the audience waiting for you. So make sure you get started.
Get started. Someone is waiting to hear your voice.
Mhm.
Thank you, Dr. Velma. So, what's next, Dr. Velma? My Seven Sis Love Story is out. What do you have in the cupboard that you haven't shared with anybody yet? You can share it with us right here. But what can we look forward to from you?
I'm still talking about love. That's so important. I thought about what the young lady said to you. That's the whole problem now. We don't understand. And if we can just keep talking about it and keep sharing it, we just don't understand what we need to know. That's an assumption that they already know and they don't. And that's why God says a fool rejects wisdom. That was wisdom you were sharing with the young lady. Wisdom she can get
Mhm.
from the book, but she didn't recognize it. She didn't understand she needed it. And so I think that's what's important right now is that we just have to move forward and make sure we're sharing what we need to share and that who cares who's not listening. But remember, if God has caused somebody to write it, maybe there's something in there you need to see and hear and don't reject it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Dr. Velma, for sharing your heart, sharing your journey with us today. I know so many were inspired. Let our audience know how they can stay connected and keep up with all that you do.
I'm on all the social media platforms as Dr. Velma Bagby. You can go to my website, drvelmabagby.com, and please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel to catch some of my talks about love. We just completed one more week. We'll be completing the what's love with a question mark. So misconstrued and misunderstood what love really is. So I love that series. And then coming up is our Faith on Fire series. And so if you want to stay connected with my podcast and upcoming episodes, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Well, thank you again. You definitely inspired us today. What
Thank
an
you.
inspiring conversation we just had with Dr. Velma Bagby. Thank you again, Dr. Velma, for being here, for sharing your insight, sharing your journey, your story, and your voice with us today. Thank you to our audience for joining us for this edition of Written by Her, a special series by Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. My hope is that today's conversation with Dr. Velma reminded you that your story matters, your voice matters, and your next chapter is still waiting to be written. This is your host, Melissa Banks, saying keep writing, keep believing, and keep dreaming.